मेरो advice चाहिँ के छ भने we have one life, right? And we do not know when it is going to be taken away. So therefore, be selective to experience a situation where my colleagues were promoted and I was not. I never had to experience a situation where I was not given an important responsibility within the bank. All we can do is we can do our best. The consequences are not on our hand because there are so many other factors that actually determines the consequences. But your effort is completely in your hand.
So, okay. So today, Ajay uncle, like, he really does interview. So while, like trying to research for today's session, preparing myself, I hardly found any interview, like one interview dated way back in 2011. So I think it's a rare opportunity for us to learn from a man who started this foundation, like ACE Institute, like back in the early 90s, a Fulbright scholar from MIT came all the way back to Nepal with a vision to start, like businesses around education and then in finance, and then in other sectors, and so today, I think one thing that we'd like to do at the end of the event is, have few takeaways from the man himself, a visionary, a pioneer himself. So that would be my objective for the day. And without any further delay, I'd like to invite Ajay uncle to the stage, please. Thanks.
Actually, I envy you guys. I should have born at your time so that I could be a part of this CNI. And I could come for a membership today, but I'm not eligible, right? But I'm really looking forward to learning from you all today, and I don't know at my age what I can share with you guys, but I'm definitely want to walk over here a little wiser, a little better human being. So really looking forward to thank you.
Thanks, Ajay. Such an Amalgan. So, like the first question that I have in my list is, you're a recipient of the prestigious what do you call, the Fulbright from MIT. I know it's they award Fulbright to the most talented individual from MIT. And this is not MIT from Australia, this is MIT you're talking about, right? So you're Fulbright from MIT, you did a doctorate from University of Southern California. I think that's that you're wearing. And you've established, ACE Institute and managed one of the leading business schools in Nepal. So having studied in, like one of the best universities in the world, and having come back and established one of the best business schools in Nepal, tell us, why even today Nepal's best business schools like ACE and Kusum and along others are not producing enough entrepreneurs in the country?
In this group, how many of you are ACE graduate or Kusum graduate? Well, I don't have the reliable data or the information to sort of say like what percentage of our graduates actually get into entrepreneurship or start their own business. When I informally talked to some of my colleagues, they said that when we ask the students, about 50% express that their intention is to start their own business. But actually only about 10% end up starting their own. Whether this 10% is good or bad, I don't know. What is on 2015, I think about 17 to 20%, even some of the best schools in the world like Stanford, they go on entrepreneurship, so I don't know. Let me share with you some of the, when we started ACE, my objective at least was to ensure that whatever quality of education I got at MIT, and my educational experience in having educated in India and Nepal, I thought, could I bridge the gap so that the youngsters here could get a little better education? And I think over a period of 20 plus years, we had few amazing stories from students, life transforming experience. So that gave us, what you call sukoon, right? Deep satisfaction. But in 2014, when I went for the reunion at MIT, then I realized that the gap has widened. The world moved at a much faster pace, and we, for some reason, could not keep up with that pace. One good thing for us, that internet became accessible, the learning resources became accessible. So for a dedicated learner, I think the gap is not much. It doesn't really matter whether you are here or in Boston or in like Stanford. But for most of the other people, the system support and all really matter. I was really shocked when one girl, a student, basically said that in one of her courses, which was credited for her MBA program, was to actually help build what is called chulo in somewhere in Darchula or Western Nepal. And she got a full credit, one full course credit for that. And these institutions these days, not only MIT, many others allow each individual to actually design and negotiate their own path to MBA. So therefore, they do not have to go through West in getting an MBA degree. But here, because of our, I would say, rigidity of regulatory structure, indifference or myopia of the people who are in power, unfortunately, we have not been able to keep pace with the world. And our students, most of our students still lag behind compared to the other places.
So do you think in the future, like, we'll see more entrepreneurs coming out from colleges like this?
Amun, my take is college will remain for some time, but real entrepreneurs are produced not by colleges, they're produced by life experience. And in today's world, these entrepreneurs, if they really want to learn something, they can go to Coursera, they can go to edX, they can learn whatever course they want to, they can go to a master class, learn from the world's best professors. And if they really want a stamp of approval in the form of degree, college is there, but my advice to real entrepreneurs is, forget the college. Take your life as your school.
That does not go along with what Ashish, the principal, has in mind, but that's very true. Thank you for that. So moving on to the second question on the list. So Ajay Uncle, you had an exceptional career in banking. So, you know, you're called a star while at Nepal Arab Bank, which is known as Nabil Bank today. And you're sure to become the bank's CEO, no doubt with that. So at that position, you know, like, and at a very young age, what made you quit that career and decided to, you know, like, start on your own?
I don't know whether I'm qualified to sort of comment, because I was so fortunate that I never had to experience a situation where my colleagues were promoted and I was not. I never had to experience a situation where I was not given an important responsibility within the bank. So therefore, I was never driven by the hierarchy or the position. So when I returned from, after finishing my MBA from MIT and joined, so I was among the 3 people who were promoted at the highest position in Assistant General Manager, and I was given a special project division. And I proposed 4 new programs for the bank to launch. And I thought that the bank board definitely approved, and then it went to Dubai, where Emirates Bank International was our foreign partner. They had 50% share. And they responded saying that one of those 4 is approved, which was consumer finance, and all the 3, probably one of them was asset management, one of them was venture capital, they were not approved. We launched consumer finance. Nabil was the first bank to launch consumer finance in Nepal. And my friends actually that time thought that consumer finance was not banking. Okay? So when I left Nabil, actually, for some time it was disrupted, it was closed. I realized that when Emirates Bank International didn't approve the other 3, I thought my wing in this organization is going to be clipped if I want to fly. And after launching, then I talked to Sanjeev Rajbhandari of Mercantile. I know how many of you know him. I told Sanjeev, would you be interested in starting something new in the financial services industry? Sanjeev in turn took me to Prithvi Pandey, who is now chairman of NIB, but then he was the CEO of Himalayan Bank. Then Sanjeev, Prithvi, me, Yogendra Sakya, and Rajiv. We discussed and we started a company called Ace Finance. I didn't share with anyone, but my objective of starting ACE Finance was not getting into deposit or loan. My interest was to help banks design new financial products so that we'll have more financial products in the market. I realized, like, after opening that, no bank was willing to actually talk to a small, tiny finance company. Okay, they were too arrogant. Then we got into plain vanilla banking, and then we started ACE Institute of Management. We started ACE Investment Company, which launched ACE Apartment. Again, the purpose was to increase the productivity of residential land so that in one unit of land, more families could live and could have a better quality life. In education, we wanted to raise the standard of management education in Nepal. So this is how I wanted to be free from the constraints of Nabil. So therefore that becoming a CEO and all, it never appealed to me. So that's why I left.
Very interesting and very brave. So like you said, I mean, you've been into so many businesses. You've established and founded, like businesses around education, real estate, banking, finance, investments, and many others. So when you, identify that you want to venture into a particular segment, what's your mantra like? What are the criteria you look into before you start a business around a sector?
Look, I'm not entrepreneur in the sense that entrepreneurs are like driven by making money, but I don't think entrepreneurs are driven by making money. I never thought about what is success, what is making money. I always looked at what is the problem that we could address, right? As I told you, like for ACE Apartment, it was increasing the productivity of residential land. In the process, I always thought that money will come, okay? So, but I'm terrible in planning. So the idea was that I sort of pursued it with all the passion and didn't care. Most likely we lost money, but I didn't care, which is not right. You shouldn't do it. Education, again, it was not for money. In fact, all our board members agreed that we'll start education not because they were interested in education, because my heart was there. And they said, we want your mind in ACE, so therefore we can have education institution to sort of pacify your heart. That's how we started. What is the question, Anand?
So how do you, what are the criteria?
So basically, identify for example, when we started Vibor, the idea was, like in real estate, one operator called Kalu Gurung was making 1 billion a year, right? I told K.V. Mananda sir, was acting governor, sir, I want to institutionalize this, right? I want to sort of formalize the real sector and distribute this benefit among the depositors by linking the real estate projects with the depositors' money. So my idea was not to start a bank. Only problem is I didn't share it with anyone. I opened Vibor for that purpose. All my co-founders who put in money thought we're opening a bank. So always I was driven by sort of solving a societal problems.
On that note, Ajay Uncle, we all know you've scored a lot of aces in life, but not a lot of people know about your failures and your struggle. And on this note, while talking on Vibor Bank, we really appreciate your courage to start a bank, although you had different reasons in mind. And we have seen the bank go through a tremendous period where it was almost bankrupt for a while. But yet you steered the bank towards an exit and saved your depositors or investors. But we also know, the main reason behind such a difficult period was liquidity crunch in the market, where there's very less you could do. So we're more interested in, learning as a young entrepreneurs ourselves. So in such a crisis and leading such a, big bank like Vibor, so what is your management style like? What are some of the learnings? If you can, talk more and dive deep into what happened during, your leadership at Vibor.
Okay, I think Vibor, at that point in time, we had a very roller coaster ride, right? And there came a point when it was on the brink of collapse, like Amun said. In hindsight, I think it was in terms of learning, that was the best gift I got from God. But it was very painful at that moment. Before I share with you guys lessons I learned, some of them could be useful to you. I'll give you a little background. Like one morning, I came out of his apartment where I live, and my intent was to drive to my office in Tripureshwar. But as soon as I came to the main road, instead of going straight towards Tripureshwar, I turned my jeep towards Balwatar, got into Nepal Rashtra Bank, straight away went to Mahasar Mahaprasad Adhikari's office. He was the deputy governor then, he's the governor now. And I told Mahasar, I cannot save the bank unless you take over the management or you give me the liquidity support. Nobody in my bank knew about it, not even the board members, not even my staff. Mahasar was the one person with whom I sort of shared that fast. Mahasar said, will you take lender of last resort, which is 50 crore that bank would give to sort of support the banks in crisis. By that time, People Finance and Gorkha Finance had already collapsed. I said, I will take it. So let's go, and then three of us went to the governor, Mr. Yuvraj Khatiwada then. And Yuvraj sir and I used to teach at Kathmandu University at the same time. He used to teach economics, I used to teach finance. Ajay ji, ke garai ho? So tha bhayena galti bhayo, he said. L tamaharu je garनुहुन्छ गर्नुहोस् is what he said. And so Rashtra Bank agreed to give the lender of last resort. But governor actually flew on next morning out of Kathmandu. So board meeting of Rashtra Bank could not be held. But Dr. Bisambar Pakurel basically intervened and said that call the board meeting. When the fire is burning, we need the firefighter now. But before actually all these things could happen, like one of the national daily called maybe Republica came up with a headline news that Vibor collapsing. And then suddenly we had a bank run, right? Before we could get the money. Now, I can take responsibility for bringing the bank to that state. But, I think to say that I steered the bank out of the crisis would be a completely incorrect statement. There were so many people who actually supported us in that crisis period, many of whom probably I don't even know even today. We do not know. I can name a few. Say, for example, Mahaprasad Adhikari came out in the national TV and said that, look, as far as Vibor is concerned, we do not doubt the integrity of the management. The bank is still solvent. Only their business model was wrong, right? I mean, it is a great support for a deputy governor of the central bank to come and state that in the national TV. There is one person called Basu Adhikari, who was a first class or executive class officer then. I had never met him before, but the kind of support that he gave in ensuring that the bank survived he was like a God sent angel. I know because I have friends in all the banks. He called one CEO and said, give 7 crore to Vibor today, right? And don't worry, your money will be paid. I called Prithvi when he was in China. I said, Prithvi, I badly need 7 crore. Prithvi called Anuj, who is now in Kumari Bank. Anuj, give Ajay 7 crore, right? So, you know, I mean, our staff, some of the staffs were intensely negotiating with the depositors, pacifying them, look, you don't need to worry. But at the same time, there were some others who were cocooned in the room, sort of saving their job, and even cooking up with the board and the central bank whether I could be removed from the CEO and one of them could become the CEO. So the lesson to you all is the human capacity for good and evil is beyond our imagination. Okay? The good I said, let's talk about this evil. On the Buddha Jayanti day, because we are going through liquidity crisis, we basically put our land on sale. About 125 ropni we had in Bungmati, we had plotted, we put land on sale. Against the board's wish that we should sell it at 3.5 lakh per Anna, I said, no, nothing below 5. So we sold it, we put it on sale. For some reason, I have no idea how, people came and bought. No idea. And there were few who said, we'll buy, but we want 50% loan. And the condition of Nepal Rashtra Bank giving us that lender of last resort was, we could not give loans. Now some of my staffs came to me and said that, sir, people are willing to buy, but some of them want loan. I said, give loans. But they said, who is going to approve? I said, I'm going to approve. I approve myself all the loans because many other people will not approve. And some of them even went to Rashtra Bank and complained that I was violating Nepal Rashtra Bank's instruction. So I was called in Nepal Rashtra Bank. I think it was Inspector and Supervision Department. A couple of executive directors were sitting there. They said, Ajayji, tapai Rashtra Bank instruction namanne भन्नु. I said, sir, मैले Rashtra Bank को instruction नमानेको छैन. Spirit मानेको छ, letter violate भयो होला. The spirit of your instruction is depositors' money should be saved. Real estate portfolio should be reduced. By giving loan to these buyers of the plot, I'm getting cash inflow into the company, which sort of increases safety of the depositors. One thing I have violated is not giving the loan. But look, your spirit is not violated. Then they said, तपाईलाई थाहा छैन हाम्रो पुरानो राष्ट्र बैंकको साथीहरु त जेल गएका छन्. सर, मलाई जेल पठाएर तपाईको प्रब्लम सल्भ हुन्छ भने त पठाउनुस्. And then they said, तपाई कस्तो मान्छे हुनुहुन्छ? I said, sir, my purpose is not to follow your regulation. My purpose is to save the bank without violating the spirit. Then I walked out. Then they sent me a letter saying that तपाईलाई सचेत गराएको छ भन्नु. I read the letter, just threw it in the dustbin. गर्ने के. Okay. Sometimes you know that when there is a natural law, I think is superior to all the laws that is written. If your conscience says that you are not violating anyone, you are helping people, so you shouldn't worry about the law. But again, you have to be very careful, very careful. I think lucky. I was fortunate that I didn't go to jail. What else? Some of the other lessons. If you are in a business, unless you are in an advocacy business, do not ever fight with the regulators. Do not fight with the regulators. You can win the battle, but most likely you will lose the war. In case of Vibor, what had happened was, because my interest was to sort of get into the real estate and distribute the money to the depositors. As soon as the bank opened, we bought 7 prime properties in Kathmandu. One in Baneshwar, one in Naya Bazar, one in Kamal Pokhri, where Ashish you live, one in Sanepa, where Bhivanti is there. So we bought so many, and then my dream was then to build apartments, make it ready, go to a house next door, and tell them that ba or ama whoever is there, यहाँ एउटा apartment हेर्नुस्, यहाँ आउनुस्, अनि यो 1 करोड 2 करोड क्याश पनि लिनुस्, मजाको जिन्दगी बिताउनुस्, अनि त्यहाँ फेरि apartment बनाउने. That was my sort of dream, true dreaming. Once we bought that 7 properties, Rashtra Bank sent us a letter saying that you immediately sell all the 7 and you cannot buy any more. I should have done it. Vibor would have been rich, but would have made tons of profit. Instead, I wrote back saying that which law, which regulation did we violate? Because this particular article of Development Bank Act allows us to do this. Fine, you can give us the directive not to do it, but you cannot do it retroactively. We did it for a purpose of the project. We should be allowed to build project there, is how I responded. I went and visited one Rashtra Bank officer and he said, who are you, judge, that we have to respond to you? I said, no, sir. We've already told people that we'll build this and that. I just pacified him. Now, then what I did was, I actually used my connections within the central bank and in the board of central bank who actually overrule the Rashtra Bank management. So because board pressure, Rashtra Bank had to sort of give us the permission. Battle won. The war was to come later. Okay. The second one was we had launched a deposit product called Super Share Deposit, where people could convert their deposit into shares at 400 rupees per share. K.V. Mananda sir was the governor. He called me. Ajay, immediately stop this. I said, sir, we have already collected about 1.5 crore of money, and we have already told how do we explain to these people that why we collected and why we have to refund. Can you please give it to me in writing? If you give it to me in writing, I'll stop. He said, okay, you stop, but I'm going to give you in writing. So he sent me in writing, so we stopped collecting deposit. But instead of sort of simply agreeing to what Nepal Rashtra Bank said, we again mobilized the internal thing, went to the board, went to the security board, we got it overridden. The board actually forced central bank management to give us the permission. Battle won, war was to come. Then when some of the central bank people changed, everything happened, Yuraji became governor, then Vibor was attacked. Like army withdrew the deposit even before maturity. Right? Bima Sastan was told not to renew the deposit. All the banks were told not anything to Vibor. Okay? So then, I mean, that was the condition. Okay? So don't ever fight with the regulators, guys. Even today, you might have connections and you might be able to do it. Times change. In business, don't fight with the regulators. And if your values differ from the current prevailing values in the society, and if you want to do business in this society, hire someone who can sort of manage those things. You can be isolated from stooping down to sort of doing those things, but make sure that you have someone who is doing that. There are so many lessons in Vibor. Another thing is when you are hiring key people, do not trust anyone. Do not trust anyone's reference. Make sure that you verify it yourself. Because when board pressured me that we should get into banking, I thought, okay, let somebody else do the banking. I did not do adequate reference check for some of the people that we hired. So, and Vibor got into problem because we got into real estate, and Vibor survived because we had an amazing real estate portfolio. If it was only for the banking portfolio, it would have collapsed. What else? Another thing. Like there were times when I felt like I didn't have to wake up in the morning. I simply thought it would be so nice if I simply collapsed. But after shower, I mean, somehow or the other I reached office, I was a very different person, encouraging people and so. Worst in life can happen, whatever happens, all you do is you do your best, right? And keep doing. You never know, like, I mean, you never know from where the help will come. Every day, I mean, it was like fire. The bank would burn, but somehow or the other, it will happen. Say, for example, Dr. Roop Jyoti. So much money did he pump in our bank. Roop Jyoti and I are very different characters, right? His values are very different from mine, especially when it relates to people. Once I realized that, once he came on the board, if it was not for his money, also Vibor couldn't have survived, plus many other factors. But once he came on the board, then I realized that, well, I mean, we cannot walk the same path for long. I thought it is time to sort of let go, and I left the board. But again, I'm really grateful to all of these people and many of my staffs who sort of faced the crisis, but not me alone. I was there, of course, I was the captain of the ship. Somehow or the other we managed it, and it's hard to believe that God doesn't exist. I have no idea, but hard to believe.
I think, thank you so much for sharing those experiences. I mean, just hearing you sounds so painful, and for a lot of entrepreneurs, I mean, when you said it's very hard to wake up in the morning and to, go to work, I've had similar experiences, but at a much, much smaller scale. I know, like bank and thousands of depositors, and we're talking about billions of rupees. That's a different scale. I just wanted to, like, and I'll get to a different question very soon. I just wanted to ask you, like, so what made you, like, go to the bank? And just to mention, we've seen and heard of a lot of entrepreneurs who decided to take another path. We've heard of coffee chains, owner, Cafe D, coffee and all, who decided to simply quit, right, at those moments. And for young entrepreneurs, I know, I mean, God forbid, like, we don't get to similar situation, but if we do, just wanted to, like, stay prepared so that we've listened to you today and we know what to do. So what made you, like, go to the bank and then face, the music every day? And I'm sure it's not a week or 2 weeks or a month. I'm sure it happened for a long period of time.
I think one realization that, look, all we can do is we can do our best. The consequences are not on our hand, because there are so many other factors that actually determines the consequences. But your effort is completely in your hand. So you can take responsibility for what is under your control. You cannot take responsibility for something that is not under your control. Okay? And worst thing could happen is bank would burn, so what? And that is how sort of, at least I'm glad that I had a group of people within the bank, even though few were cocooned in the room, who were fully dedicated to sort of making it sort of survive. So it was a blessing, I think, of people within and around who came, but I have no idea where they came from. So don't quit, just continue doing it.
Thanks so much, and we'll definitely take that from this session today. So, Zinko, moving on, like one person asks, Ajay Ghimire hardly does any interview, and you've tried your best to stay away from the media. So where are you running from?
Where am I running from? I'm a solitude-loving person. I love solitude. And I don't crave for limelight or external validation. So long as my conscience is clear, I don't care if the entire world says that you are a fraud or you are horrible. And so therefore, I don't shy away from the media as such, because even in the media, I have wonderful friends with whom I have one-on-one interaction at times. But when they say that, okay, interview and something, but look, this talk is driven by the desire to learn something genuinely, right? So therefore, I think I can learn a lot from you guys too. But other media and all, I'm not, somebody calls, I avoid them, of course, unnecessarily, but anyway, I'm not running away from anyone, but I love solitude, and that's why.
Thanks. And I think we have a friend from Nepali Times here today. All right. So moving on to a different topic, which is fintech. There's a big, fintech disruption happening in Nepal. Like I remember while at Sastodeal, a few years back, 99% of our transaction happened cash on delivery. So people used to pay on cash while the product was delivered. Today, almost like 30, up to 40, or even sometimes during Canada, like 60% of our transactions now happens online. And it's not because of the banks. Banks have joined the movement, but very late. It's mostly because of startups like eSeva, PhonePe, Khalti, and all those. So consider that you are a CEO of a bank today, and there's this digital disruption happening in the market. So what would you do as a traditional bank to stay ahead in the game?
It's a hypothetical question, right? One thing, at least I know that those of you who are here, most of you are here, if not all, I would call them, I think, digital natives, meaning you think digitally. For a person of my generation, it requires an effort. We have to struggle to even think and act digitally. If I personally feel that I'm not fit to be a CEO of a bank now, and much younger people who are digitally much more tuned should actually lead the bank. But even in a hypothetical, if I were that, all I would do is call guys like you who are tuned to thinking digitally, learn from you, listen to you, ask you to sort of show the way or lead the way, and just stay behind and encourage with whatever little wisdom I have gained over life, in my experience. So I would do that, if I were CEO of any bank. With all humility, I would say that, look, I need to learn from you guys, please, can you do something? If not, lead the way. And I'm here, I'll watch and I'll support.
I wish our political leaders had similar thoughts, and I think that's very right. Because this is one small example, and I do engage with a lot of bank CEOs, and it surprises me even today. I mean, their number one KPI is how many ATM branches do you have across the nation, right? So I have, 200 branches and 300 branches, and I'm wondering, who goes to ATM branches anyway these days? Like, when was the last time I even entered a bank, right? So there are CEOs today who thinks that way, and I know that were you a CEO today, you would have thought differently, but still being a humble guy you are, I got your answer. So a similar question on education. So you started ACE back in early 1990s, and it's almost been 2 decades now, right? So if you had to start a school or a college today, a business school, is there anything that you have done differently?
I think no business is immune from the influence of technology, and technology is going to be increasingly dominant influence in all businesses, and education is no exception. If I were to start something again, one thing I would definitely do is I will not start anything alone. I would have at least a couple of co-founders, at least one, and preferably much younger to me. I would thrash out the vision and the values right in the beginning so that we share it. And I know that we could walk the path together. And after a certain time, the mantle of leadership could sort of transform. Another thing that I would do is I would rely more on use of technology in sort of imparting education, and especially to those people who do not otherwise would have access to the quality of education that people in Kathmandu would have. So these are the ways I would probably get into, and probably, if some of you are there, maybe I would start one, otherwise probably I'll not.
There are a lot of co-founders in this room, quite capable of starting any venture with you, and happily would do that. So I think the lesson from that would be, your interest would be to bridge the digital, or I'd say the education divide, using technology, and with a co-founder much younger than you are.
Yeah, I would love to sort of decrease the inequity in access to education, and where use of technology would be critical, there's no doubt about it. But I cannot lead it. Somebody else will have to lead it. Somebody much younger will have to lead it. I would rather be on the in that. So let's see whether it happens or not. But
and my last question before we open up the floor for the audience, and I'm sure there are exciting and eager questions from all of you. So I read on your LinkedIn profile that reads, rediscovering my long lost love for math and exploring ways to make math education in schools contemporary and exciting. So here we take out 2 things. 1, long lost love, and 2, exploring ways. So does this mean, pursuit to become a successful entrepreneur, you kind of had to sacrifice what you loved the most, or you didn't get the chance to do what you really love the most? And does it also mean something new, a new exciting venture is coming soon?
When you heard me, you probably think that I'm a very thoughtful, careful individual who plans his life very carefully. But I was a very, very, I would say, impulsive, if you want to use the bad word, or spontaneous, if you want to use a good word, kind of individual. Even before I started a master's degree in math in Chandigarh, Punjab University, my dream was to teach math for a living and study philosophy for enjoyment. And that is the life I wanted, nothing else. When I came back to Kathmandu after finishing my master's, like, expectation was you have to have a job. And what do you do? So, appear in Lok Seva. So I appeared in 2 Lok Seva exams, and during the break, I went to see a friend of mine who was working for Nabil then, who is now, I think, CEO of Infrastructure Bank, Ajay Ghimire. And when I walked into Nabil, I was so impressed with the office, and I was so impressed with the way people were dressed. Wow, यस्तो पनि office नेपालमा भनेर. And Anil asked me whether I was interested to work. Wow. I said, why not? Then he immediately fixed an interview with his boss. Asif, unfortunately, is no more. And some of the Asif and I connected pretty well, and Asif said, Ajay, when you are in, rest is formality. Who gives Lok Seva? Testo tagda office ma kaam garna paune bhanepachi I got into Nabil. And I got so engrossed in work because I was solving problems from department to department. So Nabil was my world then. That's how it happened. So my love for math became dormant. And another fortuitous incident of getting a Fulbright scholarship, going to MIT, set me in a different path. So math education still remained dormant. Only when I went for this doctoral program at USC, then I found out that long lost love was coming. And with the added thing of teachers' education, like how can I make existing teachers better? Because if you want to give better education to the children now, you have to make current teachers better teachers. And math, starting with math, because it is politically very neutral. Doesn't matter where you go. The language is understood by all. Whether I start in India or US or Nepal, is the same thing, or even in Africa. Second is, if you do not make current teachers better, like the children will sort of lag behind one generation. So can I do something in these 2 areas is what I've been thinking of. But I'm also thinking that, is it the right place? And Amun, frankly speaking, when was that, Abhishek, last week? When Amun came and spoke, 2 weeks earlier, you said 2 things to our students. You said, I want to take Nepal to the world, and I want to restore hope on Nepalese youth, on Nepal. I was thinking, like, is Nepal the right place to start this? Because public school teachers are so influenced by politics that their loyalty is not to the students, to the political leaders. And here is that this 31 years old young boy who grew up in front of me is saying that I want to take Nepal to the world and I want to restore hope of Nepalese youth on Nepal. So every time I take a walk after dinner, I think about these 2 statements. Why am I having a second thought about what should be the place? Okay. And it had a deep influence on me. Okay. Another thing that is sort of bothering me is, at this age, I'm almost 62, does it make sense to start something new? Then there is one line, I still remember from that Jake Ducey's book called Purpose Principle, which says that people have done exciting, beautiful, funny, wildly successful things at any age. So therefore, I'm still thinking, Amun, whether I'll start something new or not. I'm still thinking.
Well, first off, I'm very humbled that you consider, my statement to think of your own path. Second, just like to add a fact. So there's this famous management coach, and I'm sure everyone knows, called Peter Drucker. And I say this to my mother every time. So she's about your age, I think. And Peter Drucker, he wrote a lot of business management book, a lot of, like, hundreds of them. And if you go back and do a quick Google search, you'll find that, like 60-70% of the books that he wrote was between the age while he was 60 and 80. So in that 20 years, between 60 and 80, he wrote 60-70% of the books, like that is inspired and, like entrepreneurs like us read. So I think it's a good time to start at 60.
Another inspiration, Amun, thank you.
So on that note, I think it's such a wonderful discussion with you, Ajay Uncle, and so much that we've learned, and we've not ended. So the floor is open. We can have another 30 minutes, and we're looking forward to your questions.
Well, I personally think I see that those who are outside and working there, they're also fine. Those who are here and working, they're also fine. If circumstances attracts them back to Nepal, that is also fine. Doesn't matter, the whole world is connected. And there are enough people. I mean, look at this group. I wish some or the other, like each one of you sort of create a ripple and sort of 5, 6 people started copying you guys, and there are enough people here. So now, and there is a connectivity already there. So it's a question of storytelling, story sharing, inspiring people, right? Yes, we do not have a conducive socio-political environment, but who cares now? I mean, if you can change, go into politics and change it, otherwise just ignore. Right? I don't even watch TV, I don't even read newspapers, pointless. Right? So we don't have to do anything. I mean, just do your good work. People will see and people will decide on their own. We cannot. I mean, I cannot tell someone in Seattle to come and do it. He can. Right? And they will, on their own, start doing. Like Amun said, I mean, I'm sure people see what Amun has done, and many of them will get inspired by his story. Many of them will get inspired by his story, and so on. So it will happen on its own. We cannot do anything. We just do what we can do, and it will happen on its own. If I were today, with all the wisdom that I have, to start afresh, I would probably not even do my undergraduate in the college. I'll do it online, I'll visit, go and attend certain training, right? I'll create a portfolio, right? And if you want to start your own company, who cares about the degree, right? And as a private employer, who cares about the degree? If your portfolio is really impressive, what will a PhD degree give me? In ACE Institute itself, in our history, how many PhD did we experiment with Asis? None of them worked. And he was a young man. How old were you?
25.
He was 25. Just suffered from, just recovering from a near fatal accident, right? So I think yes, Harvard brand or Stanford brand gives them plenty of opportunities. Like I remember when I attended one Harvard School of Education workshop, there's one graduate from that school. He said, look, I'm the same person today what I was before I attended Harvard. Only thing is I have a stamp of Harvard in my back. And after that, millions of dollars started flowing in. I had access to Obama. But believe me, I have not changed. I'm the same person. Okay? Today, that stamp works. 100 years from now, that stamp will not work. That portfolio that you create will be much more powerful. Because even in going to Harvard, you have to waste a lot of your time in crap. A lot of crap. Okay? So time is changing, and you guys are going to change it. And in terms of glamour, look, we are still a couple of years behind some of the radical schools. So therefore, our effort of this, what is this series, entrepreneur series we call, it's not gimmick as such. It is a genuine, no, it's a genuine effort to sort of bring together, like, inspire young entrepreneurs. But I still believe that entrepreneurs are there on the field, and school actually discourages them. they intoxicate them with seeking security in a good job. This is my personal take. I'm nothing again. I'm an owner of school, business, and all. So therefore,
and the principal is right there.
I'm not speaking as the chairman of Institute of Management. I'm speaking as an individual, Ajay Ghimire, Amun Thapa. Yeah.
And I think, sorry, just to add, I think Bilal is an inspiration himself. So, if I'm not mistaken, Bilal, I think he quit his engineering from India, despite all the pressure from his parents and everyone, and decided to come back and start his own company called Doers, a leather jacket. And I think read an interview a long time back where he discussed while his parents was not, aligned with the idea of coming back and they did not like it, like any other Nepali parents, he still pursued the idea of, starting things on his own. He decided to quit engineering and he made it happen. Today Doers is one of the known brands of Nepal.
I think in technical lines like medicine or architecture, when you have to certify the design or structural engineering and all, I think this educational institutions, credentials and all, some sort of exam and all, they will probably remain, if not some alternative means of acquiring that accreditation is there. But when it comes to social science and management, I will not live long enough, I will live long enough to see, but Harvard in its present form will not exist 100 years from now. Because there's a lot of wastage there. People can still use that connection through some other means. People can choose courses, not from Harvard. I'll choose one from the best professor in Harvard, one from the best professor in Stanford, one from the best professor in Banaras Hindu University, one from somewhere in Africa, and still get a credential, which will be better than any single Harvard can give. Well, I will not be there to see it, but this is my prediction. Crisis comes in many different forms, so you do not know what type of crisis it is, right? So you have to understand, you have to face it, and you have to respond. And what is extremely important, I think in times of crisis, the organizations that do survive are those where people have relational attachment to the organization, not transactional. If people are strongly committed to organizations, they can face any crisis. But if people are transactionals, right, then that organization will have great difficulty in facing the bigger crisis. So therefore, if you really want to build an organization of excellence, put people at the center of it. They are the ones who actually steer it in times of crisis. And they are the ones who can take it beyond your ordinary day-to-day mundane things, help you take a leap. So I would say that is number one, make sure that your people and team is really strong. Second is don't shy away from responsibility. Don't blame people, right? It is okay to make mistakes, okay? But face it. And once you take responsibility for your people, then like I remember like in Nabil, just on my word, people could pay. I didn't have to worry about them. Once they know that once I say it, I'll come and sign. Okay? These days, go to banks and try doing that. It just doesn't happen. They don't even listen to their superiors. Sir, sign here first. So it is people, I would say. People are extremely important in ensuring that your team can manage the crisis. Then accepting responsibility. And if each one of your people is trained to accept responsibility, then you're done. No matter what comes, you'll face it. I think one is when you grow big, I think the only way you can ensure that culture remains is by empowering your managers and sort of asking them to embody the same value, or those managers who do not embody the same value, get rid of them. When you grow big, when you're small, then you can interact with each person. And personally, what I believe is, like, if I'm the chairman or I'm the CEO. So just by a twist of fate, I could have been sweeping the floor and the person who is sweeping the floor could have been sitting in my place. So that humility and that connection with individuals on one-on-one basis, I think it does the trick. At least that is what has happened in ACE, based on my experience. Another thing is, like I was talking to somebody and he said that, look, you have to conduct yourself as per your position. Like his suggestion was that I should not shake hands with the security guard. I shouldn't ask his name. Look, this is me, man. I'll live the way I want. Right? I live in Ace apartment. I know all the security guards' name. There are many other owners. For them, they are security guards. For me, there are people who are giving me security. I know that one security guard's child is a doctor in Australia. The other one is an engineer somewhere. Like, and so connect with people. I think that does the trick. I know in my ACE school, I know every staff, like how many children, what they have, what kind of life they had, and they share with me, whether it's a divorce or something. So that personal connection. But once you grow big, then you have to make sure that you have managers who embody the same value, which is going to be a challenge. So therefore, there are many jobs where you make it transactional. When you outsource the cleaning, that is a transactional service we're taking. But I love that story when John F. Kennedy actually walked into NASA Center. Many of you must have heard it. And he asked the security guard, like, what do you do? And he said, I help to put man on the moon. Look at the way he felt about his job. कति मान्छेलाई एक्सटर्नल रिवार्डले चाहिँ अपील गर्छ, they go for it, तर there is no end to it. Like if you really go for that, यो पछि यो award, कतिमा जाने, हैन? And त्यो external award, अब I am personally very inward looking person, right? So मलाई त्यसले अपील गर्दैन र मलाई त्यो अवार्ड दिएको पनि ठीक हो कि होइन कि अवार्ड दिने प्रोसेसहरु पनि के हो. सो अब कुनै कुनै केसमा चाहिँ सोसाइटीले अप्रिशिएट गरेर जेन्युइनली दिएको आर फाइन. तर जस्तो भनौं न एउटा मलाई मन नपर्ने भनेको नि, सपोज मन नपर्ने कि मलाई मन नपर्ने के फरक परेर, सपोज यु वान्ट टु गिभ 100,000 on a charity to a school. अब यहाँ दिने मान्छेले के छ, पहिले क्यामेरा बोलाउँछ, फोटो खिच भनेर गर्छ. त्यो दिँदाखेरि त्यो जसले 1 लाख दिइराछ नि, त्यसको 10 लाख दिने क्यापेसिटी छ. 1 लाख दिएकोमा हत्तेरिका मैले जम्मा 1 लाख दिएँ भनेर आँखा झुकाएर दिनुपर्ने हो. द्याट इज रियल गिभिङ. त्यहाँ पनि क्यामेरा बोलाएर अनि दिने भने चाहिँ त्यो एक्सटर्नल, त्यस्तो खालको एक्सटर्नल चाहिँ मलाई त मन पर्दैन, हैन? अब आफ्नै भित्र यति उथलपुथल छ, त्यो बाहिर कहाँ फुर्सदै छैन. लाइक देयर इज अ युनिभर्स इनसाइड यु, हैन? अब बाहिर पनि जानला हो नि त. अनि तपाईको सेकेन्ड क्वेसन छ नि, विच हाइन्डसाइटमा यताउता, लाइक आई हेभ इभन 1 year आई स्पेन्ड टाइम इन अ न्युज पेपर. पैसा गुमायो, बन्द पनि भयो. देयर आर सो मेनी थिङ्स. तर अहिले हाइन्डसाइटमा भएको भए आई थिङ्क द बिगेस्ट, आई वुड से बिगेस्ट मिस्टेक, अब सबै ठिकै छ, तर इफ आई टु रिलिभ माई लाइफ, आई वुड नट डु more than one thing at a time, because my people at the bank or the financial institution did not get my total attention. My people at ACE Institute and ACE Harsing did not get my total attention. That is the reason why either institution could not attain the height that they had the potential to attain. So therefore, if I would do that entrepreneurial journey, if I have to, if you are Warren Buffett, you invest, you identify a person and just invest, that's a different story. But if you are an entrepreneur who want to get involved in the business, do one at a time. Do it for a certain time and then leave. Why can you not go beyond 50 to 500? Because we want to hold on to everything. What you have to learn in life is the art of clinging on and letting go. अब सबै इभेन्टमा तपाईलाई आफै जानुपर्ने, सबै क्यामेरा तपाईलाई आफै फोकस गर्नुपर्ने, सबै डिसिजन तपाईलाई आफै गर्नुपर्ने. I met one 75-year-old person the other day, very successful businessman in Kathmandu. He said, "यो चेक त भाइ मैले साइन गर्नुपर्छ." He cannot let his son sort of sign the check. Son has been appealing, "बुवा अब यतिखेर उनी कहाँ गर्नुहुन्छ? केही बिगार्दिहाल्छ कि?" You have to learn to let go, then only you can grow. If you want to cling on to everything, that is periphery the saanai huncha ni. What was the fourth question? Academic research. Research bhaneko like evidence based decision making चाहिँ राम्रो हो. अब हामी कहाँ त्यो कल्चर छैन. एभिडेन्स बेस्ड भन्दा पनि बसले भनेको त्यही ठिक छ. ओके, अनि हाम्रो कल्चरमा पनि तलको मान्छेहरूले बसले भनेपछि त्यसलाई आर्गु नै गर्दैन के. अनि यहाँको बसहरू त बिचारा यस्तो लोन्ली हुन्छ नि. So we have to develop a culture of evidence based decision making where people can say that, "Sir, you are wrong. This is what the evidence is saying." भन्ने खालको कल्चर डेभलप गर्न चाहिँ जरुरी छ जस्तो लाग्छ मलाई. And for which definitely research भन्नुस्, जे भन्नुस् त्यही हो. I hope I answered your questions. No, I really appreciate your, I think that is the starting point. I think the thought is the starting point of any journey. And the thought is already there in you, and you have spoken, and many of us have heard you. I hope at least 4 of us will learn from you and start thinking and sort of sharing their thoughts to other people. And I'm 100% with you. In this world, it is connected. People are thinking about going into different planets, Elon Musk and all. So at least we can think of covering this globe. So hats off to you. My suggestion is the habit of respecting every individual that you encounter would be great, irrespective of the position he or she occupies. Say, you are talking to me in one of the parties. A prime minister walks in and you disrupt that discussion in the middle and walk to the prime minister. I wouldn't suggest that. If you have scheduled a meeting with me at 2 o'clock and call from the prime minister's office, come, and you should say that I have a meeting already scheduled at 2 o'clock, and without confirming whether the other person can adjust the schedule, I cannot give time. That is the kind of value that I would really encourage you guys to do it. I did that in Nabil with my CEO. When I had given time to these 4 people whom I had advertised who had come, he called me and said, "Ajay, can you come?" I said, "Mr. Khanna, I'm already in a meeting with someone. I've given time. After the meeting is over, I'll come." That was revolutionary in Nabil. It was not a culture. Okay? So that is one advice. Everyone, whether it's a security guard, sweeper, at least treat with respect. One habit. That is a habit I try to inculcate. Sometimes when you're in the phone and somebody does salute and you forget, if I see, I just sort of come back and say that, "Hello." Oh, I'm terrible in terms of networking, because my advice is we have one life, right? And we do not know when it is going to be taken away. So therefore, be selective about who do you want to network with. It is the quality of networking that matters, not the quantity, right? It is the quality of interaction that matters, not the quantity of interaction. So I would suggest that networking is extremely important, because collaboration will definitely make a bigger impact than acting alone. Yo purano age hoina. All the research are done in collaboration these days, but the quality of network is extremely important.
I think on that note, Ajay uncle, it's been, I think for every one of us, it's been one of the most memorable evenings of our time. We're all going to take away a lot of things from tonight and implement in our business, and so many things that you've said will stick with us. And the last part, especially the habit and the crisis management and everything that you said, you're speaking from heart, we could tell, and you're not doing it for the limelight, although there are a few cameras here. But I know, I think, I'm out of words, but as an entrepreneur myself, I thank you from deep inside my heart that these lessons are even, it's worth, I'd say, it's worth $1 billion in cryptocurrencies today. So Having said that, I thank again everyone, and apologies we went a little over time. And thank you Anup for volunteering. Anup runs a really good podcast called Doers. He's already done 100+ episodes, and there are a lot of doers in this room, Anup, so you can start contacting them right after this. And again, to just repeat, Anurag and us will be here for 5-10 minutes if you want to learn more about CNIYEF and get enrolled to the program. And again, and finally, we have a small token for Ajay Uncle, and thank you so much. I would like to invite Chirag. Chirag, if you can come and hand over.
It was an honor and pleasure talking to you all. I always get inspired from people like you, and definitely I wish you all the best. You guys should lead.
And big round of applause to Ajay Uncle. Thank you so much. So it's a small gift from CNIYEF to Ajay Uncle.
So much.
And the souvenirs are from Ashish's factory.
The Ashish does this handmade Nepali.
Ashish,
Thanks.
it is wonderful. Thank you. I'll cherish it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.